All right, let's cut right to it. We've got a situation that's moving fast, really fast, and clarity is key right now. So today, we're doing a deep dive into some major events, things that have genuinely shifted the ground beneath our feet. Our goal, to really distill the critical info from the sources you've got.
Exactly. And the gravity here, the timeliness, it's immense. We're already seeing conflicting information flying around. So our job is to try and cut through some of that noise, give you the clearest possible picture of what's actually happening, and importantly, why it matters.
And it is definitely a complex picture. So, June 22nd, 2025, the U.S. launches these coordinated airstrikes. Three key Iranian nuclear facilities hit. Fordow, that's the one buried deep underground, right? Natanz, their main enrichment site, and Isfahan, the tech center.
Mm-hmm. Fordow and Natanz, Isfahan.
This is a huge escalation. I mean, it's the first direct American strike on Iran's nuclear program during this whole recent flare up with Israel this month.
And what's really fascinating, I think, are the tactics involved. Tells you a lot. We're talking stealth B-2 bombers. And they weren't just carrying anything. They had these 30,000-pound GBU-57 bunker busters, the massive ordnance penetrators.
Wow, 30,000 pounds.
Yeah. I mean, choosing that weapon, it specifically signals they were going after hardened, deeply buried targets. They wanted to penetrate deep. And they coupled that with precision Tomahawk cruise missiles
Yeah.
launched from subs. So you get this picture of a really sophisticated, multi-layered attack, maximize damage, minimize detection risk. It underscores just how serious this operation was.
That kind of capability, the penetration focus, yeah, it paints a very clear picture of intent. And the White House, well, they didn't waste any time framing it. President Trump almost immediately called the mission very successful, a spectacular military success, I think was the phrase.
Right.
Said the sites were, quote, completely and totally obliterated, and issued some pretty stark warnings about retaliation, more force if Iran responds.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because that narrative immediately clashes, like head-on with Iran's initial claims. Tehran obviously condemned the attacks, called it illegal aggression, vowed retaliation, accused the U.S. of starting an all-out war. Pretty predictable, perhaps. But here's the key bit. Official Iranian reports, citing their own safety monitors, specifically noted no signs of radioactive contamination.
Mm.
And some political sources over there even claimed Fordow, remember? The deep underground one only sustained ground-level damage. Suggests it could be rebuilt.
Okay, wait. So no radioactive contamination and potentially only ground level damage at Fordo. How does that square with completely and totally obliterated?
It doesn't, right? That's the core contradiction. It immediately kicks off this intense information war. If Fordow, this symbol of their hardened capability, wasn't actually destroyed deep down, if it could be rebuilt, well, that fundamentally challenges the U.S. narrative. It could suggest maybe the strikes were incredibly precise, maybe too precise, hitting surface structures but missing the vital underground parts. Or maybe it suggests the core facility is largely intact. Either way, it allows Iran to frame the attack as less effective than the U.S. claims, helps manage domestic reaction, maybe justifies a different kind of response down the line. Each side gets to define success their way.
That makes a lot of sense. An information battle running parallel to the actual strikes. So moving beyond those immediate claims, what about the rest of the world? How are they reacting? It seems pretty split.
Very split, yeah. On one side, you've got clear support, most notably from Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu praised the strikes pretty quickly, called them a bold step, really emphasized that close U.S.-Israel coordination that, everyone expected was happening behind the scenes.
Right. But then there's the other side. A lot of concern, even condemnation. The UN, for instance, Australia, New Zealand, Mexico, they all expressed alarm. They're calling for restraint, diplomacy.
Urging calm.
And then you have countries like Venezuela and Cuba using much stronger language, denouncing it outright as unacceptable under international law.
And back here in the U.S., domestically, it's sharply divided opinion as well. Predictably, perhaps, Republican leaders. Yeah. Mostly applauding the decisive action, seeing it as necessary, strong. But Democrats, many legal scholars too, they're raising serious questions, mainly about the constitutionality, the lack of specific congressional authorization for this kind of military action.
Right, the authorization question always comes up. So looking forward, what's the immediate strategic picture? It sounds incredibly tense.
It is. Extremely tense. The U.S. is already acting on the assumption of potential Iranian retaliation. We've seen evacuations of citizens from the region, embassy staff drawdowns, naval assets being moved into position. Standard precautions, maybe, but it shows the level of concern.
Yeah, they're clearly bracing for something.
And analysts are warning this could easily spiral, into a much wider regional war, unless diplomacy can somehow be restored, and quickly, which frankly seems like a tall order right now.
Uh-huh.
And it's crucial to remember these U.S. strikes didn't happen in a vacuum. They followed, over a week of intense Israeli operations targeting Iranian air defenses, missile sites.
Right, that was the lead up.
Exactly. So the U.S. coming in directly like this, it's a forceful new chapter.
Mm-hmm.
The potential for miscalculation, for one side misreading the other, it feels extremely high at this moment.
Definitely. So considering everything, the conflicting claims right off the bat, the mixed global reactions, the U.S. posture, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What do these actions ultimately mean for international stability down the road? And maybe even for how we define conflict itself in this era? Certainly a lot for us all to